Today's segment of Sound Balming is brought to you by Jimmy and Mary's Authentic Body Care. I cannot express to you how much we love their products. Although we use them all year, as the weather gets colder, we need these products even more. The dreaded drop in temperature, the dryness, the itchiness, and the unnecessary flakiness is inevitable. Shea butter from Jimmy and Mary's Authentic Body Care is the only thing that works for my skin and hair needs. Not only do these products cure my dry skin, the whipped butter goes on smoothly and doesn't leave that uncomfortably thick, sticky residue. Bonus? It smells absolutely amazing. There are so many different scents to choose from too. Not only do they carry skincare products, there are products for authentic living, face, shower, hair and beard, spritzers and perfumes, and bath products. Let me tell you, we cannot even keep the stuff in the studio. The entire production team as well as all our children use Jimmy and Mary's product. Jimmy and Mary's take pride in creating quality, handcrafted products from simple ingredients for the entire family. Their products are made for all skin types and are 100% handmade, 100% vegan, and 100% cruelty-free. Skincare is important. Moisture is key, and keeping our skin and hair hydrated is essential. I cannot emphasize how much we trust Jimmy and Mary's for all of our skincare needs. Hurry on up to jimmyandmarys.com and check out their products. Did I mention service is fast and efficient too? Don't forget to mention that you heard about Jimmy and Mary's Authentic Skincare on Sound Balming. Use the discount code SOUNDBALM20 to get 15% off. That's SOUNDBALM20 for 15% off at Jimmy and Mary's Authentic Skincare.
Hey everybody, welcome to Sound Bombing. I created this show for people who want to experience a radical, life-changing journey through the sounds of my diverse guests. I hope that each sound you hear on this show will strengthen your faith, encourage your dreams, and challenge you to awaken the greatness within you.
Drop the bombs. Drop the bomb. We're gonna drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We're gonna drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We come to drop the bomb. Drop the bomb.
This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Lamar Darnell Shields.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time of the day is. Welcome to my show. I'm your friend, Dr. Lamar Darnell Shields, the creator of Sound Bombing. And my goal with this show is to introduce you to people with ideas that will help you unlock your full potential, like my next guest, Albert Phillips. But before we get to Brother Al Phillips, I want to pause for a moment because you all know, if you don't know, if you're new to Sound Bombing, we always start with our 3 breaths. My old bombers, they already know, they're probably already in position. So I want to ask my guest, Al Phillips, to get in a comfortable position. And what we do is we start out with our 3 breaths to really raise our energy, raise our chi, and bring some positive vibe to our show because so many people are dealing with so many things. So I want to ask you to put your feet on the floor, palms facing up, and we're going to inhale first for 3 seconds through our nostril, then we're going to release through our mouth, then we're going to inhale for 5 seconds, hold it, and then we're going to inhale and hold it for 10 seconds. So let's go. Find a comfortable position. Everything is soft, your face, your eyes, everything is soft. So we're going to inhale, hold it for 3 seconds, and release it through our mouths, and we say, now we're going to go a little deeper, 5 seconds, inhale, hold it for 5 seconds, exhale. Now, bombers, we're going to go a little deeper. So we're going to go for 10 seconds, inhale, and we release it and say, and what is that called? That is called the breath of life. I am so honored that you took time to hang out with me in the BalmSheter. Last week, we were in for a treat all the way from Maryland by way of Sierra Leone. Dr. Adama Kaloko, she talked about her amazing work with girls in Sierra Leone. I'm so proud of what she's doing. She's going to be going there in December, taking backpacks and supplies, supporting her work with the girls in Sierra Leone. And since we're staying in the region, we have another guest who's in the Maryland area. I get a chance to see this brother almost every other week, not because he's a cousin, not because we live in the same house, but because this brother and I, we go to the same barber. And I've been knowing him as a young man and knowing his father, who I have a lot of respect for. But I'm not here to talk about his father, his baba. I'm talking about my man, Al Phillips, who upon graduating from Morgan State in 2013, he shifted his primary career passion from writing from numerous local and national publications to the development of inner city youth. He served various roles working directly with the Baltimore City Youth while employed by the YMCA Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Choice Program. In 2015, he earned a state and national award for exemplary community service throughout Baltimore City. In 2016, Al transitioned into education to work within the same school system that taught him. He worked as a paraprofessional teacher and administrator in Baltimore City Public Schools. But currently, I am so proud to say, currently, this brother is on the move. I remember sitting in the barbershop, listening to him share with me about this project that he wanted to work on. And anybody that knows Brother Shields knows that I'm about motivating, inspiring. If you don't want to tell me some good news, don't tell me, because I'm going to let everybody know, and I'm going to push you to get it done. Well, I know that he has been developing T-shirts and products all over. He's a designer, but when he shared to me, he says, Brother Shields, I am about to work on the book because young people come to me and they don't know how to go into a job interview. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to dress, and they're constantly getting turned around. He grew up like I did in Baltimore. In Baltimore, I grew up in Chicago, and I remember going to a job interview with 3 of my boys, thinking that we were going to get a job. We all showed up looking wild, weren't prepared. So Al decided to take what he knew as a male of color from working with Black and brown boys, and he picked up his pen and he wrote his first book called Y'all Hiring: The Black Teen's Guide to Navigating Employment. Albert is a man of the people and is devoted to helping to drastically change the lives of young people. You see, the belief that a good job is the surest path to economic security has always been at the heart of him and all the young people in this country, but he decided to make something happen. So I would like to bring my special guest to the show, my man, Brother Al Phillips, who's going to tell us about our Black and brown teens and how they can successfully keep a job. Welcome to Sound Bombing, brother. How are you doing today?
Hey, man, thank you so much for having me. I'm blessed. And I need you to do all my introductions from now moving forward.
So you want to take me in your pocket, take me around the country with you as you do your book signings, man. First of all, I've been knowing you as a young man through your father. Your father's a part of an amazing village of elders, man. Got a lot of respect and love for him. And I expected some great things to come from you because your Baba is an amazing guy. But to sit in the barbershop, you know, the barbershop is like a therapy session. It's like the imams are in there, the rabbis. Let me just tell you, it's a whole lot of good stuff going, and it's a lot of hating going on. It's a lot of who's your top 5 MC. It's a lot of who should be president. It's a lot of, man, I don't like her. It's a lot of relationship conversation. But you and I, whenever we get together, man, we have some really, really good conversation. And I'm so proud and honored, man, that you did what you said that you were going to do. Because you know we're in a space where a lot of people do a whole lot of talking, Al, and they don't get anything done. But because you are a young man who grew up in the system, you saw how the system mistreated Blacks and brown boys. You were a former educator, got a chance to see you work with young people and to do your thing. And you came out of the same mob I came out of, Teach for America. So shout out to the Teach for America love in it. Yep. And you had some personal challenges like I had with Teach for America, but we ain't about to discuss that. We here to discuss your book, man. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing and who is Al Phillips, man. Let people know who you are before we dive into this book.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I would just say I'm a man of the people. But Baltimore, Maryland is where I was raised, is where I was groomed, and is where I still reside. And as you already talked about a little bit in the intro, that's what my passion is in working with young people. Coming out of college, I studied journalism in undergrad. Back then I was just really, really heavy on journalism, on print journalism more specifically. And I got some different offers to write for different publications like full time when I graduated. But I started working with young people and I just became passionate about it, to see them grow, to see them develop, and to see all of the barriers that they were facing. And even in education, seeing that it was, only about 2% of Black men educators in the public school system. Well, there were only 2%, right? And so I started to see those things, and I found I found my footing in that space, and I decided to continue to move forward in various capacities in working with young people. But as I started with, I'm a man of the people, passionate about my community, and we're just gonna keep this thing going like our ancestors set us up for.
So you took on a major that many of my students ran from, which is writing. I remember how when I was teaching high school and when I would come across scholarships for students and they'd be like, "Oh, Mr. Shields, I got to write an essay." Yeah, ain't nobody about to give you $10,000, $30,000, $40,000 because you're handsome, because you can dunk a ball, or because she's cute, or because she's an athlete. No, you got to write. Why did you decide to major in journalism, and what excites you about the written word?
It's beautiful to me. It's like poetic to me. Ever since I was in high school, I remember taking AP U.S. history and AP English, and just loving the content, loving writing about books, writing essays, challenging myself, doing peer reviews, all of that stuff, that might turn people off if they're not interested in the written word. It just intrigued me, and so I kind of got into it more and more. And when I started learning about the history of the Black press in America, and whether it's the Chicago Defender or even locally with the Baltimore Afro, and how these publications were used as not just tools to disseminate information, but to empower and educate the community during various eras and in various decades, right? From civil rights to even some of our first publications. Frederick Douglass had a publication. W.E.B. Du Bois had a publication. And so I always just had a love for just the power of the Black press and how important it is in our community. And so after I learned about some of that history going into school and even before entering Morgan State, I knew that I wanted to be a part of that legacy. And so I just, I continue to transfer that to different things that I'm a part of, even though I'm not a full-time journalist. I put that into my book. I put that into, the work that I do with youth, and I put that into everything that I'm about. So it's all coming up together full circle.
Well, I'm so glad that you honored the Black press, like where I grew up, the Chicago Defender, Baltimore Afro, the New Journal and Guide, Los Angeles Sentinel, the New York Amsterdam News. Now, you know that many of Freedom's Journal, Philadelphia Tribune, Atlanta Daily, World, many of those publications are no longer in existence because of several things. Let's talk about, why do you feel that many of those publications are not in existence, and how important is it for Black people to tell their own stories? Because you're so right, man. I grew up in Chicago Tribune. Not Chicago Tribune, the Chicago Defender. I didn't realize how important that publication was, because we had Chicago Sun-Times, and we had USA Today, and then we had the Tribune. But I didn't realize until my dad told me much, much later that this paper, some of the great people have come out of it. Why do you think that those journals that I mentioned, those periodicals, are no longer in existence, and how important is it for Black people to tell their own stories?
Yeah, well, I think you spoke to some of it, and is that not enough of us know the history and the legacy of these publications, and then it's difficult to compete, because you got, like you said, in the city we have the Baltimore Sun, we have other major what people consider major mainstream publications. And then you still have the Afro and the Baltimore Times. But, you know, a lot of us are not, unless we're already inclined to, you know, be about Black publications, a lot of us are not naturally going to those when news breaks. You know, everything's going on with politics right now. Everybody's not jumping towards these publications, and we gotta get back to that. We gotta start seeing ourselves as legitimate, you know, bearers of information. You know, as they say, sometimes people think the white man ice is colder, and so we gotta get back to understanding, you know, that it's important for us not just to support our publications simply because, I mean, of course we want to support them because they're Black, but we got to also understand that this is vital. Like this is standard. You know, it's not other. It's not something to the side. And so I think it became hard for some to compete. I think it became hard for some publications to thrive in this digital age. You know, they were not set up for success when it came from going to simply print to moving to online, and the various other ways that people get information. So, I mean, it's a lot of barriers and it's a lot of challenges. I know some publications had funding problems that caused them to close. So hopefully with the ones that we still have, we continue to support them and we create a way that more can be established.
So you talked a little bit about your upbringing, how you were raised. Who were some of the authors that you saw in your house, man? Some of the books that inspired you, and who are some people that you read today that you like their form of writing?
Yeah, so you know, my dad always kept a library in the house, and I think that even with me just walking by it, you know, even with me I might just open a book and read a few pages. I might not read the whole entire book during certain times, but just having literature around, I think is important for children. You know, a book will always be better than a movie to me, you know, because of your imagination, because of your thoughts. And so it's important to have that around. But as far as some authors, fortunately, I was a part of Soul Vibers Nation, which is a Pan-African organization in Baltimore City. And as a part of that, I was also employed by Reality Speaks bookstore at one time. And so I was always around hundreds and thousands of books, primarily by Black authors. And so I really enjoy, you know, kind of hometown folks. Tony Browder, I really love his books. Naeem Akbar, Amos Wilson, you know, whether it's Malcolm X. I'm actually reading Malcolm X's newest biography right now. So many books. My favorite book of all time is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe.
Great, man. You are naming some books that have taken me back, man. Very familiar with Reality Speaks when I first moved to the East Coast, and familiar with, shout out to Jabari, you know, Sundiata, Dwele, Brother Bilal, all the folks who played a role, and there's so many other people, Sister Yah, who was a part of that. But man, how does a kid who grew up in one of the toughest cities in America, had a high heroin rate, high drug addiction, dropout rate, white flight. How does a Black kid like you get excited about reading and literature? And then what message do you have to say to other Black and brown kids like you? Because I know you've committed your life to helping change lives of youth. How does somebody like you, who grew up in a very, very rough city, not about your home, but a rough city, and then become so excited about these great authors that you mentioned, without feeling judged or feeling different, or maybe you did feel different, or maybe you wore many hats, because, you know, as a Black boy, we have to sort of code switch. How were you able to do that?
Yeah, so fortunately, it's a couple of different things I feel like contributed to my upbringing in that way. I think one part of it was obviously my dad. I mean, he was a centerpiece of me developing my consciousness. You know, he put me around Reality Speaks. You know, he had me he would sign my permission slips when I would go to a protest for the Baltimore Algebra Project when I was in high school. Or, you know, he just always put me in circles where I would be around not just adults, but even youth my age who were like-minded, who were from Baltimore. So we kind of developed together. And I think that camaraderie was a big part of it, because I didn't feel like I was alone or stifled just on my own. And I remember going to high school at Dunbar High School and wearing like WB Du Bois t-shirts and Marcus Garvey t-shirts, and people kind of looking at me like, yo, he like the black, you know what I mean? Like he like the.
So what did they call? I know when I was at Grambling, man, my boy, shout out to he's a doctor now. We used to call him Lalo, Dr. Greg Jones. And Al, he would always say, hey, yo, D, come over here, kick some of that black consciousness shit to us. He would always say that, man, come talk that and he was making fun of it, but then also he knew I wore many hats. Like I could be in the club, I could hang out with the folks that was getting high, the folks who was fighting, the folks who was stealing, the conscious folk. I was that person. Not in high school. I was nothing like that in high school. So to hear you at a very young age, I got it in college when I rocked the shirts and people looked at me like, you know, D, we done seen you in the club, but then you also, you know, rocking this consciousness as not as a fashion statement, but it was a part of who I was. And it was interesting, you know, thinking about Dr. Clark, when I met Dr. Clark, when he came to Maryland and they asked him, why didn't he change his name? He had all these kids, like my kids, Samira, Adama, and Mosiah Sekou and Hadea Ayodele. And Dr. Clark said, I changed my mind. I didn't need to change my name. And I thought that was so important. So your dad put you around kids and young people and adults where you would feel like you were being groomed. But then also in high school, were you an outlier in high school, man? Or were you just a kid that still fit in, but you knew you had a different level of consciousness than most of them?
Yeah, so I ran with all the circles. I didn't really, you know, like I started with this interview, like I was always a person of the people. I never felt like I was above people. Or, you know, I think sometimes when we come into certain consciousness for periods, we start to believe like, you know, our intellect is superior to everybody else. So we got to debate everybody.
Man, where does that come from? Let's park and put the emergency brake. Where does that come from? Let's stop right there.
Yeah.
Where does that?
I mean, to me, it's like you lose yourself for a second, and it's a sense of like immaturity and sometimes insecurity. That you always. So have you been there? So were you there? Were you there at one point in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you're transparent, because a lot of folks, they came out of the womb like you came out of the womb conscious. Because we know some people with some strong African names that you don't want to even connect to Africa. And it's like people who go to church, every word out of their mouth is God this, or if they become a Muslim, and so we have to own it. We do have that level of intellectual arrogance. When I changed my diet, my mantra is meat free since '93. And I remember changing my diet, and I was like food shaming people. Like, you should not be eating the pig. You should. But then after a while, I'm like, I'm turning people off. But now, and I'm sure you look at your friends in high school and in college now, and they come to you like, you did. Al, you did tell us. Al, you did talk about this. Al, you did talk about the mayor. You did talk about those politics. So we do go through, and I'm glad we go through that. I'm glad that you admit it, because a lot of people swear they were conscious or woke their whole lives, and you know they're not.
Yeah, it's definitely a development process for sure, and you got to remember that, you know.
Well, I'm so glad that you said that. If you just joined, I'm talking to Brother Al Phillips, the author of Y'all Hiring: Black Teens Guide to Navigating Employment. So let's get to this, man. What motivated you to write this book? I love the cover. I remember you and I discussing, and I asked you some hard questions, and I'm hoping you don't think I was, being arrogant, because my thing is, if we come from the same circle, I'm going to push and I'm going to pull you. And you remember, I'm saying to you, what's your marketing plan? What's the design is going to look like? Those, and I was asking you those questions because a lot of times, many of us will do something before another person, and then we'll look at it, and then we'll talk behind people's backs and say, yeah, I told him to do this. I told him to do that. And I'm not saying I had played any role in what you designed, but I love the design. Let's talk about what motivated you to write the book, and then talk about, for the people that can't visually see it, where they're going to see it when we show them the image, talk about why you designed it the way that you did, that cover.
Yeah, definitely. So the motivation for the book came from me working many years in workforce development in Baltimore City, and supporting young people, teenagers all throughout the city, east, west, south, wherever you want to go. I work with hundreds of young people, and me thinking about the barriers that they face when accessing employment or thriving in a workplace, or even transitioning from one job to the next. And me understanding these barriers, and me thinking about, man, like what's a tool that we can create that speaks their language, that talks about their reality, and it's something that's empowering as well as educational. Because I find that a lot of the workforce development trainings and seminars and workbooks and things that I had access to were not really culturally relevant. Like they didn't align directly with the realities of the young people that I was working with. And so I was literally online looking for a book like mine. Like I was looking on Amazon, your Barnes and Nobles, your small bookstores. I remember even going to Everyone's Place in Baltimore and trying to find a book that really could align with what I was doing with young people as far as workforce development. And I couldn't find one. And so that was a part of my motivation for creating one and using the knowledge that I had obtained along with a long list of resources that are already in the community and trying to pull and find the things that would really resonate with our young people. And so that was the main motivation for the book. Additionally, I knew that I wanted to become an author in 2020. I didn't know that coronavirus was coming. I didn't, I couldn't have predicted that one.
Because you could have written a book. You got coronavirus, Black Teens Guide to Navigating the Coronavirus 19. You'd have been a bestseller right now, brother.
Hey, man, what? Well, yeah, I didn't know, but I knew that was one of my goals for 2020. And so I didn't want to let anything get into the way.
So how did it feel accomplishing that goal? Let's talk about that. How did it feel when you got it in your hand? Because I want to come back to what motivated you and why did you choose that title? But when that book was in your hand, Al, let our listeners know how it felt. Not just the page, like when you got that first copy, walk us through that feeling.
Man, it felt surreal. It felt.
What did you do, man? What did you do?
I just sat there with it for a minute. I just kind of I was quiet. I just was like, man, like, you put a lot, like you said, a lot of people say they're going to do things, but it's something about bringing something to fruition that really just really gives you like the will to live, the will to thrive, and it also a part of everything I do. And this goes back to our conversation we were having about, getting knowledge of self and then kind of down to other people. But I realized that a part of the reason why I changed is because people really look at you and what you practice, right? They look at your lifestyle. They look at how you carry yourself. It's not so much what you say or what you preach, but it's about what you produce and how you actualize it. And so I already know, in me talking to other young people and even adults, I helped to inspire some other people who may have been thinking about writing a book or, setting forth with some other goal. And so I just felt happy to be able to kind of motivationally, support other people while also putting something out myself.
Man, I love that. And you nailed it, man. It's one thing to get hold of an idea and drive it, and another to have an idea get a hold and drive you. And that's what you did, man. It is when you become connected to this, and when you can't sleep, when it's chasing you, when everywhere you turn, you see an example of it. And that's what manifestation is. And you did it. I remember just being in the barbershop and you like, hey man, brother, Shears, I'm about to write a book. I knew you have a book out. Yeah, ... You just never know who's in your space. And so I want to honor you for doing it. And then also, not only just for producing this, but then you are right. You motivated so many other people because we all have these stories in us. I do the Shortcut Story show and Phase and Fellowship. I think you've been a part of those stories about people of African descent sharing their stories. We all have a story. We all have a story to share that can heal somebody, can remind them of their greatness, or also remind them of what they should be doing and challenge them and shake up their foundation. Because a lot of people sometimes need to be ego shamed. We need to shake up the foundation and say, you could do better. We know your dad. So when we look at your dad, you are a direct reflection of not only just him, because I don't want to not acknowledge your mom and your grandmother and your ancestors, but you are part of all those individuals. So why did you choose the title of your book? Then I want you to talk about the cover.
Yeah, so the title, it came from a question that I feel like I've asked employers, that a lot of young people I work with ask employers. And it's that central question of, they want to get right to it. Are y'all hiring? Yes or no?
Nothing.
Right? Like, I
You
don't
just
even
like
have a
yes or no.
conversation with you. I don't care how your day is going. I just want to know, do y'all have an opportunity for me or not? And what really made the title stick out to me is when I was in Mondawmin Mall in West Baltimore, and a student had come out of Douglas High School right across the street, and she walked up to the great cookie in there. I was getting some cookies too, probably for my fiance who loves them. But I was grabbing some cookies, and she walked up. She was like, "Hey, y'all hiring?" And in that moment, I was thinking of a title, because originally the title was going to be just the Black Teen's Guide to Navigating Employment, but I felt like that wasn't enough. It needed something more. But in that moment, it kind of stamped that main title of y'all hiring.
So talk to me about the cover. I love it. It's a red book with a brother with locks, and the writing is in his hair, the locks, the y'all hiring with a question mark. What was the inspiration for the cover? And then did you design the cover? Because I know you are an artist, you design t-shirts, or did you pull somebody else to the table to do it for you?
Yeah, so I definitely pulled someone else to the table. And the way that it came together was kind of spiritual, I would say. I was looking at a book by a local author and poet named Kondwani Fidel. And I always loved his covers. Not his last two books, not necessarily one that just came out, but the last two right before it, he had some really, really dope book covers. So I was like, man, who designed his cover? And I forgot that I purchased one of his books maybe about a year or so ago, but I couldn't find it at the time to be able to look on the inside and figure out who did it. But I looked it up online, and I found the designer, Makia Hugley, and then I found her on Instagram and, sent her a DM, was like, hey, I really love your work. I saw some other work that she did. And so we went back and forth a lot, as you can imagine, to get this cover to where we wanted it. But the cover is a Black teenager, and he's looking forward. And then you have different symbols. You have a light bulb. You have the question mark. That's a part of the y'all hiring. The question. Then you have a check at the top. And the light bulb just symbolizes like an idea, a thought. Trying to figure out how I'm going to go into this thing. And then at the top of it, you see the check, which just symbolizes like, I got it. I figured it out. I tried some things. I might have failed. I might have made some mistakes, but I successfully navigated through this thing, and we moving on to the next level.
And you are definitely moving on. Speaking on moving on, what are some tips you can share about the hiring process for Black and brown youth? And then what do teens need to know about the current job market, man? Because one of the things that I knew, both living in Maryland, and my mentor was the great Elijah Cummings. I worked with Elijah on several different things, and he says that we're preparing our generation for a future that won't even exist, Al. I mean, think about that. So what are some tips you can share about hiring? And then what do teens need to know about the current job market?
Yeah, that's so much. So in regards to hiring, I would say that some of the things that, they may have heard about, maybe they haven't heard about, are just the basics. And that goes for making sure that when you are applying to a position, that you are projecting your best self in all phases. So whether that's on the application or during the interview, or even when you get on the job, sometimes we get the job and then we kind of get a little comfortable and we stop showing up as our best selves. And so
or we stop showing up. Let's be clear. Not as our best selves. Or we invite our friends to the restaurant that we work at. Like I worked at McDonald's, and my whole crew in Chicago showed up at the exact same time and almost got me fired. So keep going.
Yeah, no, that's real. That's real. And so, and just keeping that in your mind is like you want to be your best self in all phases of your life, really, but ultimately in your job as well. And then, I think one of the things that distinguishes my book from a lot of other books when it comes to employment is that I don't shy away from racism, white supremacy. Which I think that a lot of times we get stuck on talking to our young people about, hey, make sure you get your resume, make sure you got your firm handshake, make sure you got your professional clothing. but we don't let them know, like, what do I do when I'm stressed out at work? Or what do I do when I feel like I'm being discriminated against at work? And I try to put that in a book, as simple as I could. So I would say definitely know your rights as an employee, as a teenage employee in your state, and then also in your country, because it's important to know, just in case you get jammed up, or just in case you want to support somebody else, in the way that they are being their best selves at work. So those things are important. You asked the second part of the question around the job market. One of the things that I always try to talk to young people about is, right now, everybody, when you're a teenager, at least, you're thinking about the immediate, right? You're thinking about, I'm trying to get some money today, tomorrow, and you want the quick dollar. But I always urge them to think about careers as well. Because yes, you want to get your job now, you want to get your money. You may even get a summer position, which are all great things. But I want you to also be thinking about, and you might not have it nailed down, right? I'm sure at 14, 15, 16, most of us did not completely foresee where we're going to be at 30, 40, and 50. But you do want to, in your mind, think about careers. And I think that's essential. So whether it's some huge careers right now are things like IT, which is always huge as far as a industry. And then, it really, you want to think about what passions you have, right? Because you would hate to just be chasing a dollar or chasing something that's big and just in the job market, but you like, I don't really want to do that. I'm not really that passionate about that. So if you can combine your passion with a career-minded, driven goal. So for instance, I want to become this, and then you figure out the path to get there, whether it's college or trade school. Because let's be clear, college ain't the way for everybody, and that's fine, right? But there are many paths to get to, depending on what your career is, where you're trying to go. So just think about those options. Talk to your guidance counselor at your school. They have a wealth of knowledge that I feel like even when I was a student, I didn't tap into enough, thinking about college and career. So make sure you have a conversation with those people. Your local library is a huge place where they have seminars, they have free resume clubs, they can get you, some of them can get you certified in Microsoft and how to use a computer. These things are essential. And I would say make sure that you tap into all your free resources out there.
So speaking of resources and speaking of when we were younger, what are some struggles that you faced as an African-American male seeking employment, maybe as a teen or as an adult right now? Because again, I'm sure this book is also not just a reflection of the young people that you work with, but I'm sure Al has walked into a spot and said, hey, y'all hiring, probably dressed wrong, probably with your boys there. What are some of the struggles that you faced, maybe as a young person and as you got older? And then how successful were you as a teen in landing a job?
Yeah. So in the intro of the book, I kind of detail my y'all hiring story. And
give me the version of y'all hiring story.
Yeah. So I pretty much, I was walking into Foot Locker. And Foot Locker, when you're 16, 17, and you're black male, that's like your number one job.
Oh, that's the job, brother. The stripes and the pants. Come on, man.
You can be around the shoes. You can know all the latest releases. You get the discounts. All of these different things. And so that was like my dream job. And I was living in Sedonia in Baltimore at the time. And there was one right up the street from my house. And so I said, you know what, today I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk up the street and I'm going to get this job. And so that's what I did. I walked out and I walked to the Foot Locker. I walked in, I wasn't thinking about my parents. I wasn't thinking about making a conversation. I wasn't thinking about, hey, how y'all doing today? And I asked that question, y'all hiring? And so they said, yes, but we don't have any applications. And this is the time where, all the applications were pretty much on paper.
The paper application, yeah.
Yep. And so I said, cool, I got to print out my house. You ain't say nothing but a word. So I went and got a chicken box first. And then
so Baltimore, because you feeling good about yourself. Now you got a chicken box. You're like, I'm about to get this job.
Absolutely.
So for those that are listening, let's just be real clear, because I got listeners all over the country out. For those that aren't familiar with Baltimore, please explain to them what a chicken box and a half is. Then we wanted to get back to the story.
Yeah, so a chicken box is 4 fried wings, probably in the oldest grease available, right? And then you put some salt, pepper, and ketchup on it, and then you either get some regular fries or you get some Western fries. And if you fancy, you get salt, pepper, ketchup. You might even get some hot sauce on it too. And then your half and half. Some people call it an Arnold Palmer, but it's half iced tea, half lemonade. You get that in the jumbo. I used to get a lot of ice. And that's so
for all my people who really want to know Baltimore, not just crabs, let them know you got to get a chicken box and a half. So you were feeling good about yourself, so you headed back home.
Yeah, I headed back home, and so to avoid a food coma, I decided to print out my own application, and I filled it out, and I walked back up to the store, and I gave it to I guess it was the manager. I didn't care about what your position was. I didn't care about none of that stuff. I just was like, who would I have to get this to? So I gave it to whoever. And, of course, as you can imagine, I didn't get a call back. I didn't get an email. There was nothing. I didn't even follow up with the job myself. I just thought that, hey, if I did that, I printed out my own application, I should get some type of points for this. So that was my y'all hiring story.
I love that, man. I love that. How has the book been received so far?
It's been beautiful, man. I've had people really, just to backtrack a little bit, the book was funded by the people. I did a crowdfunding campaign through Kickstarter where I had people all over the country contributing really to an idea because people hadn't read a page. I think I just maybe put out like the front cover and like a synopsis of what the book is. And then later on, I showed people what the chapter titles would be, but people hadn't read the book, but they fell in love with the idea. They saw a need for it. Some of these people were parents, grandparents. Other people were members of different organizations who were like, we needed a resource for our young people. And so it was very well received as far as pre-orders. And then when it came out, a lot of organizations started reaching out about, speaking to their young people. I'm actually booked for a few different dates coming up in November to engage with teenagers virtually. That has been one benefit of this virtual world that we're in is, being able to get to different places. As much as I would love to get on a plane and travel to these different places, me just being able to log in and talk to people from, New Orleans and California and in different places have been wonderful. So the book is very well received. People feeling it a lot.
Well, I'm telling you all, he goes by the ambitious Black guy on Instagram. And if you're not familiar with him, his shirts, he always comes with these inspirational, motivational shirts. Al, what's next on your professional journey?
Yeah, so as far as the book, I plan to do a workbook component to accompany the book. I'm also working on, with some other Black professionals, creating a Black young professional symposium that we're going to do virtually, probably sometime early next year. We can really engage with a lot of different youth from around the country and hopefully even around the world to have these different conversations, to flesh out some of the topics in the book more, and then, really help to empower and educate our young people when it comes to this employment navigation. And then, I got at least 3 or 4 more book ideas coming down the pipe. You get one, it's like, okay, what's the next one?
Well, you are on fire. You are on fire, and you're around some great authors in the city. Brother Albert Phillips Jr., we want to thank you for joining us in the BalmSheter. It has been a pleasure hanging out with you, man. I'm so inspired to see that this book has gone to print. Thank you for all of your posts letting us know, about the book. How can our listeners get in contact with you? And then if they want to purchase a copy of the book, how can they do that?
Yeah, so you can go right to my website and find out more about me and purchase the book. So if you go to albertphillipsjr.com, you'll be able to see, my bio. You'll have different videos, other interviews I've done. I'm definitely going to put this one on my website as well. And then you can also purchase the book right there. The book is also available other places that books are sold. But if you want a signed autograph copy right from the author, I definitely encourage you to go right to my website at albertphillipsjr.com.
Hey, I want to encourage you all my Black and brown youth, my young people and parents, organizations. If you want to purchase this book, Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, YMCA, YWCA, you want to get this book. This is a time where young people are quarantined. We know many schools are going to probably shut down in November. Our college students are going to be coming back. So I want to encourage you to pick up a copy of this book. So our young people, when the cities and states do open up and they want to apply for jobs, this is a great book and a good guide. Al, leave us with some final thoughts, man. What are some final thoughts that you have to share with the young people out there? And then maybe also the parents or youth service providers that are working with young people.
Yeah, so this is a quote that I got from, I'm a huge Kendrick Lamar fan. And I can't even remember what song this was from, but it was on one of his albums and it was a skit. And on the skit, he had like an older gentleman talking. One of the things that he said was the only limitations that you have are the ones that you place upon yourself. And so we know we live in a world with various barriers on many different levels. And in many ways, they probably are not going to be gone before we cease to live here. However, we still have to remember that we're cut from a cloth of ambitious. It's a part of the reason why my Instagram name is the Ambitious Black Guy, is because we come from a great and a mighty people. And we have to always remember that in the face of adversity, we can still persevere, we can still overcome. And I know that becomes cliche in a bit, but we really gotta take that to heart. And then secondly, I would say that one of the things that I feel like is overlooked, especially when it comes to employment, is the idea of camaraderie. So putting people on, putting your friends on, not just because they're your friends, though. Make sure they can actually do what you do.
I'm so glad you said that.
But making sure they got the skills and the will to actually get it done.
I'm so glad you said that, because we all grew up with this. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Yeah, when you know them, but you need to know something too.
Yes. So not just because they're your mans, you're gonna put them on, but you're gonna put them on because it is your mans and they have the skill to be able to do what's out there. So remember your people, remember who around you. Remember those people who in your class. I tell people, especially young people, when you're having conversations with friends about just ideas, about goals, about going to the next level, these are people that you want to stay connected to, because you never know where those things might develop into. You never know when you get to college and you get into career. And you're like, man, remember Mike from the physics class? He always was talking about building a robot. About these are the type of people that has those big ideas that you want to be connected to, and keep the relationship one that's reciprocal. Give and take. That's what I would leave with your audience.
Well, man, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you, man. I cannot say enough how proud I am of you, man. What I love about you is you have this quiet spirit when we're sitting in the barbershop. And for those who don't know, the barbershop is a great place to build. And you don't talk a lot, but when you do talk, you're very methodical in your speech and your thinking. And most people are rushed to say whatever. And so I appreciate you, because there's so many people in those spaces that have so many thoughts and so many opinions. And as my pastor, Willie Wilson in DC, said, some of us don't have enough power to pick a dead tick off a dog's back, but we got a whole lot to say, man. And so before we get out of here, brother, my favorite part of the show is called the Super Bomb Questions, and they're brought to you by Mountain Made. This is a part of the show that I really, really love, because I get a chance to ask you some quick questions. And Al, I need you to respond as quickly as possible. So are you ready?
Got you.
All right, let's go. What's your favorite word?
Oh, man. Ambition.
I was hoping you were going to say that. What's your favorite quote, Bible verse, or spiritual verse, or hip hop lyric? Favorite quote?
The world is yours, Nas.
What's your superpower?
The ability to have foresight.
What's your spirit animal?
Probably a lion.
What moves you to tears of joy?
Seeing people achieve their dreams.
What moves you to tears of sorrow?
Seeing my people oppressed.
What do you wish you had more time to do?
Write more books.
What values do you live by every day?
Every day is a new day to make it happen, to make history, to keep pushing forward.
What's a ritual that you do that keeps you connected to your inner power?
I listen to calm music, like meditation, yoga type of music.
What guides your heart?
My family.
How do you express gratitude with those you love?
I show up when they need me.
If you had one opportunity to meet a deceased person, family or not a family member, who would that be?
It probably would have to be James Baldwin.
One of my favorite. If you were in a Mr. America talent competition, Al Phillips Jr., what would your talent be?
Singing in the shower.
Singing in the shower. Brother Al Phillips Jr., the author of Y'all Hiring, the Black Teens Guide to Navigate Employment. Man, thanks for joining me in the BalmSheter. It has been a pleasure hanging out with you, learning more and more about you. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you much success. Go out and get this book. I'm telling you, our young people need it, because some of them are coming so wrong when they walk up into these places and wondering why they don't get the job. Jay-Z can dress the way he want to dress because he owns his business. Puffy can dress the way he can dress because he owns his business. Beyonce can dress the way they dress because they own their business. As Jay-Z said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. Al, thanks for joining me today, brother. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Hey, thank you for having me, and thank you for all the listeners for tuning in.
And I also want to thank my engineer, my Haitian brother, Alexander Blanc, my super duper producer, my African sister, Nicole Klempaka, Supremacy for our theme music, and all of you for listening. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, and stop being stingy, and share me with all of your friends. You hear me? Let everybody know that we're out here on every platform. If you want to know more about me, you can visit www.drdrlds.com to check out me, all of my products, all my merchandise. If you want to make a donation, you can go to buymeacupofcoffee.com/soundbalming, and balming is BALMING. And as always, believe that something wonderful is about to happen, and that some people miss the message because they are too busy looking for the mess. Thanks for tuning in, and do something for someone other than yourself today. You've been listening to Sound Balming. Peace.
The Super Balm questions are brought to you by Mountain Made CBD. Mountain Made is changing the CBD game by offering a line of high-dose CBD tablets at an affordable price. Their products are THC-free and third-party tested for accuracy, cleanliness, and potency. Their products, which ship nationwide, include Build for CBD saturation, Boost for precision titration, and Recover for rest and rehab. With 9 years experience in hemp and fitness, Mountain Made's founders are focused on creating a quality product to help those who live an activated lifestyle. Check out mountainmade.life. Again, that's mountainmade.life to find out more about how their products can help you crush life. Remember, their products ship nationwide. Go check out their website today and follow them on social media at Mountain Made. That's the @ MNTMADE. Our staff at Sound Balming uses Build before a morning workout, which helps to push our bodies to a whole new level on a daily basis. Try Build, try Boost, try Recover. Our staff is using these products to enhance our active lifestyle naturally, and we are crushing life with Mountain Made CBD, and you can too. Start today by going to mountainmade.life and ordering Build, Boost, Recover, or the multitude of other products that they have which will enhance your lifestyle. I promise you, you won't regret it.